Okay, very well. So we have Undocumented Student Services has a Life After College series, of which I provide information on pathways to grad school when we are undocumented. How do you navigate that pathway? The other is on entrepreneurship, which basically translates into working for yourself, generating income, launching a business, um, anything like that. And given the circumstances, with some of us not having work authorization or in its liminal state where we might just lose it altogether, for those of us that have DACA, it might be useful to have this information and just to debunk some of the myths we might hear or some of the ideas we might have. So this is the entrepreneur mindset, the first of three workshops on entrepreneurship. And I'm gonna talk about like give you an introduction of who I am, why do I even present on this work, and gonna give you some working definitions so we can start talking about what is entrepreneurship. And if you have this idea of like, I want to get started working for myself or launching a business, then let me give you some tips on how to do that. And I'll wrap it up with some resources. The other workshops I present to you are more in terms of you're already set to start a business. So what does a business plan look like? What is a business model? What are some of the structures out there so that you can decide what sort of um, what way you're going to be doing business with folks. Is it a corporation? Is it a limited liability company? Is it a partnership? Is it a co-op or cooperative? So I'll do that in the second series. The third series is more on some paperwork or considerations for doing taxes, contracts, things of that nature. But today, let's just get into this idea of what is entrepreneurship and why you can work for your own, on your own. Okay? Hey, welcome. We're just getting started. So my name is Juan Ruiz, and I did my undergraduate here. I transferred from De Anda College. I see some folks that I haven't met, so I just want to be thorough. I transferred from De Anda College, did my undergrad in critical race and ethnic studies, and then I did a master's in philosophy. I wanted to see what it is that I wanted to do, so I took a break from that and did independent contracting under my name, no business just yet. And then folks know that I'm very open about my status and that I advocate for undocumented students to get opportunities to work as independent contractors. So I had a contract with the university, UC Santa Cruz, and the university said, you know what, Juan, like the liability is too high. You are very open about your status and you have this contract going on. We need to hire a business. We can't be doing business with you. And so then I had been thinking for a very long time about launching a limited liability company, also referred to as an LLC. And I did that in a matter of days. It's very simple. I had been doing a lot of reading, and there's some resources that I can point you to so that you can get it done fairly quickly. And I was able to rework the terms of my contract. Now I was doing the work that I was doing for the university, managing a program, not as Juan Ruiz, independent contractor, but as Nepantla Philosophy Limited Liability Company. The term Nepantla refers to this in-betweenness of sorts in which I think that undocumented folks live, where us particularly students are very privileged to be in an institution where we are, but at the same time, we are very deportable. And in some spaces, we feel as if we are illegal. And we share in that lived experience that other folks, of those folks who are not at the university. So I decided to name my company Nepantla Philosophy, also because I am a philosophy academic and I'm able to do programming and philosophy. So I registered my company as a training and consulting company for education purposes, which is very broad. And I could do many things. Um, Nothing illegitimate. Everything's very transparent. Since I don't sell any goods, I don't have to get a seller's permit because I'm not selling you anything. It's more like training and consulting. So the universities hire me to provide these sorts of workshops. Just to give you an idea of how it is that I went from being an independent contractor to an entrepreneur and establishing an LLC. Okay. I am now serving as the grad fellow. For those of you that it's your first time meeting me, I am a grad student. I'm a PhD student in Latin American Latino Studies in my third year, my QE year. Juan is my advisor. And I serve through Undocumented Student Services as the grad fellow, and I can provide for you many resources. I can reach out to a grad school on your behalf and maintain your anonymity. If you want to know about financial aid options at UCLA School of Law, it's like, hey, Juan, can you reach out? And you don't have anything to do with it. I just inform you. I can also read your statement of purpose, personal statement, give you some tips on that. I am your resource. And I am also a student and I am very undocumented. I don't have that. Okay, so this is the link. USS will send this presentation distributed electronically. So these are all live links. You can schedule time to speak with me every week. There's like 15 hours a week that you can schedule and we can talk about anything. At any point, if you have any questions, just raise your hand and let me know. Okay. So entrepreneurship, so the business textbook definition of sorts is the activity of setting up a business or businesses, taking on financial risks in the hope of profit. However, there's other working definitions, such as the one that I learned from one of my students from, we had a pilot program where undocumented folks were able to learn the ins and outs, all the steps to launching a business. And then USS provided them with $1,000 so that they could launch their business. And I learned another definition that I want to share with you. Maybe if enough student input and pressure is given to USS, we could bring that program back and put some money in your hands so that you can launch your business. The student said is just figuring out a way to monetize your passion and earn revenue. That's what it is. And it doesn't require work authorization. As we're going to get into this material, we can all do this. And the system, the legal system is set up in a way that folks who are undocumented can get hired as independent contractors. We'll see that. So reasons to be self-employed. Again, this is a lot of what we're focusing here is changing this mindset of I don't have work authorization and my opportunities are cut off. I can't be an employee somewhere. I feel you. I've been through it. But at the same time, there's reasons why you want to be self-employed. A lot of which I experienced once I had my very own contracts. Okay. So it's not a dead end if you don't have work authorization. And I'm not telling you probably anything that you don't already know because our history of our family members or folks we know, they've been working for years and documented in this country, right? It's just that we have acquired degrees and skills which we can sophisticate the approach and then gain access to other clientele that probably our parents didn't have access to. But we're not doing anything new, folks. It's just that there's a way to do it here and I'm here to teach you a little bit, show you a little bit of what worked for me or what is out there. No one needs to know about your status when you're an independent contractor. It doesn't come up in the tax forms. It doesn't come up in the conversations and how you're hired. You basically get an opportunity to follow your passion, whatever that is. You may want to work with more than one client at a time, so you're not confined to only one employer. You can have multiple clients at different times of the day. You set your own pay rate and you schedule your hours when you're an independent contractor. Of course, you might be thinking, Juan, this is too good to be true. But of course, this is contingent to you have a client relationship and the client will have to be in a contract with you and pay you. But if you are the expert of what you have shown that you want to do in your business and you get hired, these are some of the perks that you can take on. So you're the expert, you showcase that in your business, you are the right person to hire for that particular project. You are doing something others are not doing. We'll get a little bit more into that in the ABC test of what defines an independent contractor as opposed to an employee. But basically the idea is that you are providing something to a company or a client or an institution that nobody there is already doing. And you have the ability to come up with solutions, to work alone if you wish, and to be creative. Another thing I didn't include is that although we are undocumented, you can obtain an employer identification number, an EIN, and hire folks. I used to have an employee who was a citizen. Ironic, but it was true. Okay, are we following? So one way to visualize this is an example. You might have this specialty or education that you're gathering here at UC Santa Cruz, right? And you select a business structure, as we'll cover in the next workshop. What works for you? Do you continue to be a freelancer or an independent contractor working under your name? Maybe that works if your client allows that, right? Like I said before, my client, UC Santa Cruz, said the liability is too high. So then I had to set up a limited liability company. So you select on this business structure and you create this relationship. You're consulting with the folks who hire you. It might be an institution or a private organization. I can get into many details of how to set up a contract, very basic, but it outlines the scope of the work that you're going to do, when you're going to start getting paid, when your project ends, how you're going to get paid, what are you responsible to do, and what are you not responsible to do. So in my second workshop, I provide you with a bunch of templates and links so that you can set this up on your own. The idea with your client relationship is that you are the perfect fit for that job or that project. And as I said before, you're doing something that nobody else there is doing. Or they probably tried and they said, no, we need an expert, so you're doing it better. Okay, you establish a contract, and we'll get more into that in the next workshop. Just here, the workings of it are the mindset of like it's attainable, it's possible. So it's the entrepreneur mindset is a way of thinking creatively, strategically, decisively that enables you to harness your passion, skills, and experience and knowledge to overcome challenges and provide solutions to your clients. Okay, I know it's a lot to take, folks, and I know it's a difficult day. I feel it. I feel it very much. But that's why I printed out the slides so that you can take them with you. I'm also very hands-on. I have some slides and handouts from years when I started my education that I continue to go back to. But just reading a lot of the information because I don't want to miss through it. And as you can tell, I don't have many slides. So you want to ask yourself when you're going to start taking on this journey, what are some of the skills you possess? What motivates or drives you to provide and a solution to this unmet need that somebody might have, right? Of course, you can start thinking about how do you price your project or how do you price your hourly rates? And there's other tips that we can get into that at another time. Ideally, you can work for yourself, develop an expertise, and foster that. Market your products or services wisely and understand the rules of engaging in contracting and paying taxes thoroughly. The more you know about these rules, the better the game gets. But believe in yourself, you can do it. So a little bit on the history of how this is even possible. The Immigration Reform and Control Act, IRCA of 1986, establishes that it is illegal to knowingly employ unauthorized workers in the United States, undocumented workers. And that's where we had the I-9 system. Employers had to verify if folks were authorized to work in the United States. However, in that language, there was an exception. And the exception is that the I-9 form is not required for contractors. It's required for employees. And that's the main difference that we have to draw between an employee and a contractor. And independent contractors are considered sporadic domestic workers. And instead of hiring someone who's undocumented through the I-9 system, you hire them through the W-9 form. Live links, folks, so you can check them out. One of the main ideas here is that they cannot hire you knowingly. They cannot know that, for example, you had DACA, your status changes, and then you were an employee, and they say, okay, you don't have work authorization no more. We're going to use the W-9 form and hire you as an independent contractor. That's illegal. However, there's ways in which the system works that is interesting, where folks, like I said, when you come into this client independent contractor relationship, there is no reason why they have to ask you about your status. It's just that you have already determined, I don't want to be an employee. I want to be hired as an independent contractor. This is how much I charge. This is the project that I'm going to take care of. And I'm going to complete W-9 form for tax purposes. That's it. You could be documented for all folks know. It doesn't matter. The point is that the system that you navigate is W-9 form. They take that as a record. If they're paying you more than $600 for your project, then you have to complete the W-9 form. Otherwise, you don't. And at the end of the year, when your client has to file and report taxes, they will, according to that W-9 form, say, I hired X independent contractor, I paid them $800. This is the tax identification number they gave me. And then you receive the 1099 form in the mail or email, whatever, so that you can report your earnings. Very good. Okay. What does this mean? This means that immigrants can launch their business, undocumented folks can launch their business in the US with an ITIN number, a tax identification number, or a social security number if you have DACA. Folks without work authorization are not allowed to be employees. However, folks without work authorization are able to work as independent contractors. Totally legal. In California, folks without work authorization are able to get professional licenses, such as, ironically, you might be undocumented, but you could practice law, right? If you pass the bar exam. Or a business license, one that might be required in some counties, for example, California, when you want to run a hair salon. So you're able to get a business license for this sort of business. All entrepreneurs, regardless of their status, are responsible for paying taxes. That doesn't change. One major thing that changes with the amount of taxes you pay to the government when you are working for yourself as an independent contractor, a sole proprietor of your business, is that you can deduct, like you have tax deductions to where if you are working under your name as an independent contractor, you should save about 25% of your earnings to pay back in taxes. When you take the business route and you establish a limited liability company, for example, you have more tax deductions. You can say, I spent some of the money that I received on a computer, on paper for my office, on marketing, on hiring an accountant. And of course, you can't say you spent all of the money you received in these things. There's percentages that are allowed. However, your taxes that you're going to have to pay back to the government are going to be around 14%. So those are the efficacies of having a business as opposed to being an independent contractor. Subtle differences we could cover more in other workshops. How are we doing, folks? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Too much, too little? Good. We're almost halfway through. So the language is key. Independent contractors are not employees. Don't forget that when you get hired by someone, you're not an employee, which means that there is this ABC test. We're going to get into that in the next slide. But your client, so it could be an individual, it could be a business entity, it could be an institution like the University of California, hires you as a contractor. They cannot know about your status because when you're completing W-9 form, nowhere does it come up. What's your social security number? Well, where were you born? Do you have work authorization? No. The I-9 form does require you to show that you have work authorization. But again, we're not trying to become employees when we don't have work authorization. We're trying to become contractors. There's things that happen, right? Like the example that I posed of folks who say, okay, your DACA status ended, but I don't care. I want to keep you here in the company. There'll be allies like that will say something like what I heard one day. Heck, I run the risk, but I run no risk of hiring you. I am not a CBP agent trained to know about your status. For all I know, you are a citizen pulling my leg. So when you are an independent contractor, I had someone tell me, you could be lying to me. You could be a citizen. And I'm just hiring you as an independent contractor. It doesn't matter. There's a legal pathway that allows for this. However, it's going to get controversial and it's going to be, I know that as undocumented folks, like some things are said under the table or determined, and no matter how much I know about these laws or how much I present them to you, things will happen. Those allies who will say, you know what, I don't care. I just want you to get on board. And so then the language is key. Suppose that was the case, hiring you as an independent contractor, you have to pass the ABC test. So what the ABC test is Assembly Bill 5 by Governor Gavin Newsom signed in 2000 or 2001. Um, you have to meet three criteria. A, you are free from their control. By their, I mean like the person who hires you. You are free from their control and direction, which basically translates to you set your own rates, your own hours, you choose your clients, the way you prepare for your project, the training you get. An example of this is that whoever hires you really cannot control anything you do when you're working, only if they pay you or not. Only if, according to the scope of work that you prepared, you delivered. Okay? So you are free from their control and direction. B, you carry out work that is outside the usual course of that business. So, which translates to you may not perform services that fall under an existing job description in that company. So let's go back to that example of someone who was already working. For example, this has happened here. There was a grad student who was working with their DACA and they had work authorization. That DACA expired. Their work authorization expired. It didn't renew in time. They were working as a teaching assistant to the university. The university couldn't just say, "Hey, student X, we're going to hire you as an independent contractor, and you're going to continue to be a TA," because they're going to be doing the same job description that they were doing as an employee. However, they could get hired as an independent contractor to provide education and training in the realm of whatever. So you can't just turn around and say, okay, well, forget the I-9, let's just complete a W-9 and hire me as an independent contractor. The work you carry out has to be outside of the usual course of that business. Okay, so for example, you hire an electrician for your restaurant. They're not cooking, they're not serving, they're an independent contractor to fix the lights at the restaurant. Letter C, you work in an independently established trade, occupation, or business that is related to the work that you are being hired to do, which more or less translates to you work and act like an independent business. You have business cards, you have an office, you have a business name. Even though you're working at that restaurant to fix the lights, you're not part of that restaurant. You have a business also. So this is the ABC test, which was meant to protect employers and independent contractors because often employers were abusing the rights of the employee by treating them like independent contractors, not doing proper onboarding, or not paying them for overtime, or I don't know, how not giving them their breaks. And at the same time, when you have an independent contractor, the protections are twofold because if I'm working for the university managing a program that I have showed I'm the expert and I know what I'm doing, you're not training me, you're not giving me an office, then you're not going to tell me how to run my project. We already agreed to, I'm going to manage it and this is what I'm going to do. And the terms of payment are there. So it protects both the employees and the independent contractor where it draws that clear boundary of the ABC test, differentiates one from the other. Okay. Now, professional licenses, California Senate Bill 1159, signed by the Governor Brown in 2014, allowed individual applicants for professional with a tax identification number to obtain professional licenses, such as their ability to practice law, be a nurse, a doctor, an architect, before folks would get the degree, but then they couldn't obtain the license required to work this profession. So basically, it just translates to the bill prohibits any entity within the Department of Consumer Affairs from denying the license to an applicant based on their citizenship status. This is fairly new. I learned about it last week. Assembly Bill 2543, signed by Governor Newsom 2 months ago. It allows undocumented entrepreneurs to obtain something called the Small Business Certification, which allows them to also have opportunities to bid on government contracts. Before it wasn't the case because by law you had to show that you had work authorization or that you were a legal permanent resident or citizen to obtain your small business certification. So folks, Immigrants Rising and the Central Valley Immigrant Integration Collaborative pushed for this along the same times that there was the push for opportunity for all, but that got vetoed. This was signed. This is a live link for folks if you want to discover, well, what does it take to get this business certification if I have a small business. I'm gonna start wrapping up. Some other definitions that you should know about establishing a business name, or commonly referred to as doing business as. So some folks who don't establish like a corporation, but they want to do business as like caregivers, for example. But they don't want to work under their name. So you can establish a fictitious business name and call it like, I don't know, ABC Babysitting. And I'm providing you the links here for you to have access to where do you start if you want to establish a business name? What sort of business license are you responsible to obtain if you want to do a particular sort of business trade? Or do you require a business permit? Which is basically like if you're gonna, it's very different that I'm instructing you on this information. I don't need a permit, as opposed if I had a book and I'm like, I'm gonna sell you the book. And so then you purchase a book, I'm selling you now a good. I would require a seller's permit because I have to pay taxes on that money. If you're just curious, where do I start? This is the website right here, the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. You type in there what sort of business trade you want to get into, and where county you want to do this, what county you'd like to start this off, and they'll give you a list of agencies according to that municipality that you should know about and where you need to start registering your information. So just to reiterate a little bit, there's different stages. There's a lot of stages to this entrepreneur mindset. To recap, you might be overwhelmed or excited to start a business. You're not alone. Some of us had to be pushed to do it, or we lost our contract, or some of us are saying, I'm not going to get DACA and I need to figure out what am I going to do with my degree because I don't want to go to grad school. Well, you're not alone. A lot of us are going through this. Brainstorming, you can map out, create a plan, gather the resources. In the packet that I provided you, I give you two items aside from this presentation. One is the Immigrants Rising, like brainstorming your ideas for when you want to be an independent contractor. They ask you a variety of questions that allow you to start weeding out some of these ideas, hashing out some of these ideas, and resources so that you can go more in depth in developing those. The other item that I provide you is something called the business model canvas. In the back of that sheet, there's explanations for each section. And in the front is an opportunity for you to start filling out, well, what does your business look like? Who are going to be your clients? What are going to be some of the services you provide? Some of the goods you sell? And this would be the sort of thing that you can bring to a business consultant. Our office has a history of working with one, Carla Reyes Noguera, who does a pilot incubator so that you can to help you go from A through Z in establishing a business. And you would bring something like this to them and say, hey, like, give me some tips. What am I missing? Again, if you were to pressure the office and say, hey, let's bring Carla back, you could do that. Number 3, taking action, executing the plan, actively engaging with partners and clients. So yeah, you already established your business. It's gonna take you knocking on some doors, creating a network, getting your name out there, getting folks to know you. And then there's gonna be a time when you're in the zone and you're like, I just can't take on more clients because I'm good where I'm at. Okay. Some resources, like 3, and that's it. Undocumented Needs Project is this website that I discovered also very recently. They are gathering data and providing also information for a variety of things, food insecurity, housing, things of that nature. I've been tapping into the resources a lot on graduate school and entrepreneurship because they've done what I've been doing for a while, synthesizing a lot of what is out there and consolidating it like in one hub. So I encourage you, check them out on docubasicneeds.com. Immigrants Rising, they're dope. They've been doing a lot of work for entrepreneurship and grad school and anything related to undocumentedness in the Bay Area, and they're now known throughout the country. They created with the UC Office of the President, the Income Generation Options for Undocumented Students Toolkit, which I encourage you to check it out. It's 47 pages and it goes very in depth into a lot of the things that I cover right now. A lot of the info I take out and I show you, but if you want to get more into these fine details, I would check them out because there's also a lot of links that send you to other places. The cool thing is that it's created for students from the UC system. So if you need help in knowing how to create a fellowship, go to grad school, establish an internship, these sorts of things, they have it all mapped out. Okay. And lastly, Spark Your Dreams, also hosted by Immigrants Rising, is a hub that has a lot of informative material that you can learn at your own pace. Videos that are 2 to 3 minutes long that tell you this is what a corporation is. This is the difference between a corporation and a partnership. And this is the entrepreneur mindset. The idea here is that they have interactive worksheets. They have a community support, a network that you can tap into, folks that already established their business. It's free and confidential. You create your username and portal. And when you show that you have completed their videos and worksheets, there are rounds of funding so that you can launch your business. And that is how I got funds to launch my LLC, to grow my LLC, because I had already done it. Spark.immigrantsrising.org. Check them out. Check them out. That's it. That's all I got. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any questions we want to share with the audience that I'm going to share this video with, or should I start the recording now? Yes.
Come and ask you and then, you know, they go through the process when it's time to do the employment authorization and, they can't complete it. I think it's important to advocate for yourself for these fellowships because departments know how to do it, but they're not gonna, it's kind of like that, they're not gonna ask, right? They're gonna assume, so you have to like ask for it, like, okay, can we have a different arrangement? Especially on this campus, people come to me a lot and I have them go back and then actually they're able to work it out.
Yeah. Sometimes even with the scholarship opportunity that might be out there, if you reach out to them and say, hey, is this scholarship or fellowship tied to funds that are unrestricted, or are they federal funds, for example? And if they are federal funds and folks who don't have legal residency or work authorization cannot tap into these funds. But if the funds are unrestricted or from donors, and they just don't have the language of this opportunity is open to undocumented folks, then they might not know, and it never becomes an opportunity for undocumented folks because no one asks. So again, thank you, Ritu, because that is the resource that I am. If you say, hey, Juan, can you reach out to this place and ask if those funds are unrestricted or federal? And am I eligible? I can do that. Other comments, questions, concerns? All right. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording.